Okay, guys, welcome to today's show. We are going to talk about turning numbers into income, and look at it as the cash flow mechanics is what we're titling today's show, because really that aspect of looking at the numbers and looking at investment and things, how do you actually turn that into income and things that you could see coming through? Now, I think it's fair to say, Jim, that most people, they probably have a slightly uneasy relationship with money. Um, Whether that's they feel like maybe they don't have enough of it, or they're not entirely sure how to get more of it. It could all be a wee bit uncertain with people when it comes to money and income, and how to get started and how to keep that moving as well.
Mm.
And I think as well, you've got a lot of people who look at others who are quite successful and are earning, and it could feel a wee bit unclear to them. And sometimes like there's something hidden going on. Like, do they have a secret? Do they know something that I don't? But in reality, it's a lot simpler than that. Income's not really hidden. And it's not random. It does follow a structure, and I'm sure you'll stand testament to that, Jim. With
Is it
structure
not?
and
Is it not just typically down to what would say the gurus out there, the fake gurus, that just want
Mhm.
to convince you that it's going to be difficult and you have to go and learn from them so they can
Yeah,
sell them a
yeah,
course.
we could sell the courses. Yeah.
I mean, I'm a bit obviously I'm a bit jaded about this because I keep getting targeted all the time on social media with people selling courses.
Hmm.
And every single time when I look at their background, it's like, you're not as successful as you say you are or make out to be.
Yeah, it's always good to learn for people that are successful. And I done a quick vlog the other day about the best way to learn, and it's to learn for people that have been successful and trodden that path before you. But you need to really check that they actually have got their own success and can actually demonstrate that before you start learning from them. Because
Well,
if they don't,
here's a classic example about how that comes across. Okay, in the last 10 years or 5 years, I've bought £100 million worth of property, or I've sold £100 million of property. Now, what does that make you think? It's like, oh, you might own it. It's
yeah,
like, no,
automatically you think, wow.
I'm an estate agent. I've just sold it for other people.
Mhm.
See how that could be? See how some people would actually misconstrue that if it's said in a certain way. That's how they do it. They convince you that by leaving certain things out and implying certain other things, that it's like they've got a lot more than what you think they. No, do you think they've got a lot more than what they actually have in
Yes.
terms of experience and also in terms of actual wealth. I posted it the other day on social media in a group. They said, "Oh, I'm new to the group and all the rest." And I thought, "Cue the furious, all diving on this boy trying to get his money." And I said, "Okay, here's the Wealth Creation Show. It's a free show. It's free information. It's all the information I've distilled over the 30-year period or more that I've been in the property game and actually been a property investor, and actually quite a sizable property investor." This is everything I learned from zero to multimillionaire. I mean, I never said the multimillionaire thing and the zero thing, but that's the reality of what I've actually said to them. And the reason that I did that is because I needed to leave something for my children so they can learn from, which is what this is.
Yeah.
From learn from when the time comes, because you can't force it on them now. But at some point in their future, they'll realize it's like, I'm going to have to get my finger out and get something done. That sort of
Yeah.
mentality. And like, where
Hmm.
can I find out now? It's like, well, you're too late because your dad's dead and all the knowledge is gone.
Hmm.
That sort of thing. So it's like, it's now all distilled into the Wealth Creation Show episodes.
Bank all that
Um,
knowledge.
yeah, it's a masterclass of everything, and everything I'm continuing to learn as we go, because the learning process is a journey. It's not a destination. And
Yeah.
so I think that's the most. And I said, look, it's free to access. And then he said, oh, that's great. I'll have a look. And I thought, good grief, I'll have a look.
Well, we never
As
know.
if
You
to
you
say,
might be
I'll just
watching.
have a
You
wee
might be watching.
gander at it. And it's like, if it doesn't spur me on, I'll no bother. And then I had to comment and I said, listen, if you listen to this and put every single thing I've said in here into action, at some point in the future, you will be financially free. I could
Mhm.
literally almost guarantee that. If you put everything into action, what we've said in this show, you will be financially free, and whatever it is, because it just doesn't. The wealth creation show doesn't just apply to property; it also applies to investing in other places, and also investing in yourself and your education. I think that's what people don't realize. And I says the only thing that will stop you from being successful if you try to apply all this is if you've not got the belief that you can actually achieve it.
It's yourself, yeah.
Yeah, it's yourself that does it. You don't have the belief. That's why people quit as singers and stuff like that. You know, they get to a certain level, or they get to a footballer. It's like, oh, I could have been professional. So why weren't you? Oh, it was the drink and it was the women. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because that's what they can't help.
Yeah. But you're absolutely right. This is just a bank of knowledge, and it's an all-round thing. It's not just property investment; it's investment all round. You know, like you said, well-being and everything as well. But what I do agree with, you said there, just to double back slightly, when you said about people that come forward and say, "Look, I've made X amount of transactions in terms of X amount of hundreds of thousands in property sales," but like you say, they could just be the person that's involved in setting up that contractual transaction. I mean, that's just paperwork.
Buying it for someone else.
Aye, that's just paperwork. I mean, anybody could do that.
They're not doing it. They're not buying it for themselves, or they're trying to make out that they've got all that wealth, but in actual fact, they're joint venturing with about 5 other people. So really, they've only got a fifth of that wealth. Because if you had that wealth, because see how that is. I have got 10 million, but if there's 5 other people involved, you've only got 2 million.
Yeah.
So you can only teach people to get up to 2 million in property, because you don't have 10 million. You've only got 2. That's your share. And if you were able to teach people that up to 10 million, then you wouldn't have any other investors. You wouldn't be joint venturing with anybody. You'd have 10 million.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So today I'm going to put a question out there just to everybody listening, just to kind of start us off before we go into what we're going to cover today. And if you really think about, you know, we're looking about understanding that gap between what your income is and what you would really like to achieve. And if you think about what your income is, and for example, if you are earning, say, £2,000 a year, what would you actually like your income every month to be? I mean, would you like say 5,000? And the difference between that's the £3,000 gap. So people get a wee bit stuck about thinking, right, okay, how am I going to achieve that then? What am I going to do today to turn that gap into something actually measurable and something that actually you could build towards and earn 5,000 a month as opposed to 2,000? And that's what we're going to try and look at, that gap today.
Yeah, I find it hard to believe that anybody will actually believe you. I mean, the majority in here, listen to this, watching this, or whatever. I think they won't believe you, but I've done it, and way beyond that, actually. But what they don't believe is the fact that it's not really it's not really you've done it. It's possible. They don't believe that they can do it.
Yeah, self-belief as well. Yeah, that holds a lot of people back.
Someone once told me when watching things like this, don't be skeptical, but your mind is like a parachute. It only works when it's open.
It's quite a good analogy, yeah.
And it's true. Your mind is like a parachute. It only works when it's open. So I go into everything with an open mind. There is people I don't like watching or listening to, but I still do it because there's a lesson that they've had or they've learned, either success or failure, which I could benefit from. So I'll listen to them, irrespective of the fact that I'm not really keen on them, I don't really align with them, but I still listen to them for that reason, because there's a lesson there somewhere about failure or success that I could actually benefit from. So I don't need to go through that failure in order to learn that lesson.
Yeah.
Woohoo! It's like,
and it sounds really when you put it like that, it sounds really simple, but it's amazing how
it saves some money. Give me everybody that failed. It's like, let's hear their stories. And you find there's a commonality in all these stories. So when you talk about the cash flow mechanics and turning numbers into income, it's true. You learn off a lot of people's failures well in advance. I never had anything like that when I first started, because no one was doing buy to let when I first started that I ever knew. because it was way before buy to let was even a phrase. There was no such thing. It was just like, oh, you're going to be letting a property or renting a property. That's it. There was no mortgages that were buy to let either. It was commercial loans from the bank, term loans over a 20-year period that you paid down the capital and the interest, kind of like a mortgage, but it was commercial. So it had a higher rate on it as well. So these are the things that I started out with. So today, most people have actually got this, basically this superhighway accelerator that could accelerate them pretty quick to there. Now, if I did it in 8 years, from zero to financially free, how quick could anybody else do it? We're learning what we need to know. And this this is what I mean about what's distilled in the Wealth Creation Show and what is actually in this playlist. You've just got to find all the nuggets. But the point is, I mean, there's about 200 odd episodes, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. There's something like that. It might be 200, it might be 150 or whatever.
No, this is 218, this episode.
Is it? Okay, 218. And you could think to yourself, oh God, if I watched one a week, that would take me 4 years. Congratulations. That is a degree.
Yeah.
That's a degree. But you're getting somebody that's done it. That's the difference. You're not getting an academic teaching you. You're getting somebody that's done it, giving you a degree. And basically, it's not going to take you 22 to 30 hours a week, which is what university takes you. It's literally you're an hour a week. Because that's what you're listening to, an hour a week. This is all we do, an hour every week.
Yeah.
So I'm amazed at how many people would, and they will dismiss this because they actually don't believe it's that easy. Yes. Hello, McFly.
Yeah, I was just going to say it's about getting into the actual headspace and having.
Or they're not motivated. They're not motivated enough. That's probably the thing I would say the most. They're not actually motivated enough to do anything about it because their life is so comfortable. That is probably one of the most important things. It's quite interesting because I'll be doing a show on well, I've actually did it yesterday. I did it yesterday actually. It was broadcast yesterday about AI and about where will we find meaning in the world of abundance. And the psychologists have arrived at an arrival fallacy, and what it means is a peculiar human experience of reaching a destination you've worked for years to reach and feeling inexplicably that something is still missing. Now, Lily Tomlin actually said this and says the trouble with the rat race that even if you win, you're just the fastest rat.
I did catch some of that on Sunday, when you done it.
Yeah, that's all. And I'm not calling anybody rats, but what I'm asking you to consider is what race were you running, and where does that track actually end for you? It's like, I think it's so relevant.
It is really, because people could be on this journey and in the race, and it's like, but what race are you in, and why are you in it, and what's your
I think that's why a lot of people drop out of property investment eventually. After all the courses that they go on, they eventually go on and they just do something else completely different, or they get a job and forget about it. But you're supposed to get a job and actually do property investment at the same time, and you get a letting agent to do all the work for you, and you pay them handsomely to do that for you because you can take that back anytime you want. If it comes tough times and you lose your job, you take that back. But you've grown a big portfolio for yourself and you've got income then again to run on, and you don't need the letting agent to do it anymore. That's easy enough to do. And that's what I keep saying to people. It's like, I've given it to a letting agent. It's like, oh no, it's not really an income anymore. Yeah, it is. You're building up an income and you could just basically take that back if you need it. That's your safety net. So there's an income and there's a capital appreciation over the medium to long term. That's why it's like, flipping heck. Why do people not get the mechanics of this?
Yeah, and it is about getting a grasp on how the numbers actually then transpire into income, and people get kind of stuck on just the core structure of what their normal income is. And if you strip that right back, they usually look at the three main things that determine how much they earn, and that's how much they're getting paid each time, how often that'll happen, and how easy it could grow. And in simple terms, it's like value, volume, and leverage. That's the three things and that is the three things you should concentrate on, not just on your obviously 9 to 5, maybe working income, but also with your investments and things as well.
It's trading time for money, isn't it? In essence, and you know, there's a clear example of trading time for money. You're earning, I reckon, 20 quid an hour, something like that. And I know a contractor will get like anything from 50 to 100 an hour, but for a normal person, if you're just doing labour and you're doing a homer or something like that, 20 quid an hour, just say, for doing labour. So you're 20 quid an hour, and you want to make 100 quid, then you do 5 hours worth of work. If you're wanting to make 1,000 quid, you're doing 50 hours of work, which is more than the week. But your ability to perform is compromised, then you're not doing any work and you're not earning any income. That's the point. So it comes down to, when you look at volume, that's the classic example of the core structure of income. Now imagine if they increased their price to 250, if you had somebody else doing that for you again. You no longer need more to generate the same income. So all you're doing is changing the price. So if you're earning 40 quid an hour, then you're doing half the time to earn the same amount of money.
Yeah,
so if you decide to change it to 40 quid,
income,
and that's why we talk about the mechanics and turning numbers into income. It's the small marginal differences. I can change the income level. I could maybe change the hours, because what I could do is I could duplicate me, and I could pay someone else. So I could charge that person out at 30 quid, and I could pay them 15 quid. And they might want that because that's nice and comfortable for them, because it's a no-brainer and they don't get involved in anything else. They just turn up to their work, do the job, and they're off again, and they get paid for it. And that's leveraging yourself.
And then you're multiplying that service to multiple people, and then then expand that way.
Yeah. But again, when you do that, your ability to perform is compromised. You've still got somebody earning. It's kind of like property, isn't it?
Yeah, it is that.
Same principle. When you start to scale up and you start to have multiple properties, if one goes down, you don't really bother if you've got another 10. It's no that worrying to you. Whereas most people, 76% of landlords in Scotland, for example, and possibly throughout the UK, only have 1 or 2 properties. So if one goes down, they're either 0 income coming in or 50% income coming in. That's really worrying.
Yeah.
Especially if you've not got the means and you're at the wire. In other words, you're at the edge where you can't afford to have anything going wrong. Risk analysis, isn't it?
Yeah, we covered that when we were talking about one of yours recently, and it does need a lot of work, and it is of course a time sensitive thing and a cost, looking at a cost effective time. But that being down doesn't affect you greatly because you've got everything else running at the same time. So
yeah, and then what I do as well is Tony's got a whole cash flow analysis about what's coming in, what's going out, and I just said to her, well, put a contingency of that amount in there when we're going to start that job. Put that contingency amount in there. Put that contingency amount in there. Put that contingency amount in there, and you see the cash flow how it goes plus 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 plus, and it does go minus, and it goes, and that's the point where if that happens at that point in time, Tony, what to do is you can loan money from Parker Housing to Jess and Jinx. And then when they get back on their feet again, they just give it back. And you can do that. That's the benefit of having two or three companies, because they can intercompany loan between each other. When one's on a high, the other one can be supported as a result of that, and vice versa. And then eventually what will happen is the huge investment that goes into this company will pay off, because you won't need to do it anymore. Because this is all about properties that I bought from someone else having to constantly refurb this stock. And actually get rid of some of the tenants who he said all paid on time every time, and then we found out they don't. But I had factored that into my offer anyway, and the fact that I knew that was probably going to happen, and this guy wasn't exactly the best person at telling the truth.
Most forthcoming is but I think, like you say, you had done a risk analysis and you'd prepared for that kind of eventuality, and so that was all thought about well ahead. But I think the key point there as well is, like, and you've used such a good example, is that your income isn't really always, it's not always about your effort. It's about having these 3 elements, like the value, the volume, the leverage, and things, having them all structured and set up to, like you say, like support your investment, and like you say, with the limited companies, one could help the other while the other one's performing better and things like that. So it's just,
and that's effectively how income grows. in terms of that and how you intercompany loan from each company, and that's what the people at the higher end do as well. The billionaires and we've got huge companies. They'll intercompany lend with each other, and they'll get people to invest in their ideas as well. In order to do that, I don't get people to invest in my ideas because I am not wanting to be responsible for other people's money. I will happily lose my own money, and I'm okay with that because it doesn't matter to me. It's almost like a game, if that makes sense. So I don't care about that aspect of it, but I won't do that with anybody else's money for that reason, because I don't want, if I lose one penny of theirs, it's like, oh my God, I'll never sleep again. And so if I lose 10, 20 grand a mine, it's like, yeah, okay, then that just happens when decisions that you make or you possibly don't make. So that's the way it works. So income is directly tied to your time in that example, I suppose, what we talked about. And it's that sort of thing. But I'm a great believer of the income being tied for your day-to-day living. It's like you have maybe trade hours for income, and that's kind of what gives you stability, because you're employed by someone. Therefore, they're taking the responsibility and the hassle off you of having to find the next customer or do the next job, because they're just issuing everything to you. That's an easy gig. So all you need to do when you're doing things like that is learn as much as possible, be invaluable to your company, and therefore you're able to get possibly higher increases every year or promotions. As a result, when people leave, you'll potentially get put into their job, and that will allow you to earn more income. And if you're still at the same spending level, then you've got more income to invest every single month, or save up to invest every single month, I would say. That's what I would say, and that then allows you then to reinvest in the property, reinvest in yourself, and that's kind of a scalable model, isn't it?
Yeah.
And honestly, that's what I say to most people. It is, you want to be really super wealthy, live well within your means. In other words, spend a lot less than what you make, invest the rest, and possibly low-cost UK equities, funds, index funds, because 96% of active fund managers don't actually beat the market. Believe it or not, 96% of them don't. It's a well-known statistic. Well, not that well-known to anybody else, but it is a well-known statistic. 96% don't beat the index funds, and then you're paying for that, for no beating index funds. Wow. Where low-cost index funds are, they're low cost for that reason, because there's no really an active manager. It just automatically does the transactions for you. It's set up like that. That's why AI is probably going to be so good for the future, because it'll be more accurate in terms of analysing and understanding how to look at these numbers and be able to invest in even a lower cost, or keep that low cost base there still. So these are scalable models, I would say, definitely. And then possibly, if you know what you're doing, you could you teach other people? Well, you can to your level. And some people will actually say, okay, I want to know that. I mean, there is a demand out there. And I'm not saying that everybody's a furu, aka a fake guru, but a lot actually, again, emphasize or make out that they've got a lot more than what you think than what they have.
The smoke and mirror things, yeah.
They want the smoke and mirrors, the snake oil salesman sort of thing. Notice how it's always a snake oil salesman.
Salesperson.
But you notice it's never a woman. I've never really seen a woman actually being like that. It's mainly just the men in the property industry. But hey ho, that's just the way it is. So if your income, but then if you're diversifying like that into these, so that's what me is diversification of your income. It's stocks and shares, and it's possibly your pension, and it's possibly a bit of ISAs and stuff like that. Cash on hand. I don't know if you want to dabble in gold. For me, it doesn't produce anything. It just hedges against inflation, which I'm not really sure it does, to be honest. I'm a great believer in property and investment criteria, the investment returns of property. So that tends to be where I sit. Nothing else really.
Gold and things. I've noticed recently the price of gold went up, but like, is it really that worth it as an investment? I don't know. I mean, people do, and that's fine, and that's their thing. You brought up a few good points there about, and I see it quite a lot with, especially property investment, because that's what obviously we do. And people that get off to a good start and maybe have a couple of properties and then they walk away for their job. And you made a good point there, where especially in the early stages for a while, you should treat your job as still your bread and butter, live within your means, because that still facilitates your ability to reinvest, because what you're building as an investment, it takes a while before it could start to look after itself. I mean, it took you a while before you could leave that just to completely look after itself and reinvest using that income rather than your salary income.
Yeah. So that's kind of how you do it. And we didn't talk about was if you want to do a subscription model. Yeah, I mean, you've got something written down here about subscription model. If you're charging people £10 a month and you've got 500 people, they'd be £5,000 a month. But I'll be honest, £5,000 a month doesn't excite me.
No. I mean,
£5,000 a week doesn't excite me either. To be honest,
the £5,000 thing, but think how much time and effort would go. I mean, I was putting these in just
it's the time and effort. It didn't excite me. That's what I mean, because I know what you would have to do to get that. Plus the fact I'd feel responsible for 500 people to ensure that they were actually successful, probably wanting it for them more than they wanted it for themselves.
Yeah, and a lot of people.
That's just the type of person I am. If you for 10 quid, 10 quid a month, me feeling so responsible for someone, it pays me £10 a month.
It's not worth it.
That's why I wouldn't want to do it, for that reason. And plus the fact I would be diverted with that too much. It happened in the early days of the estate agency business, where I focused so much on the estate agency business because we had to get off the ground. Therefore, I neglected my property business. Therefore, my property business suffered quite a bit in terms of things that, no turning things around quick enough, in terms of occupancy rate, not being able to, because I actually tried to self-manage. That's the problem. So I wasn't able to get round to do things straight away, whereas you're managing it all now, and it's like, that's your job. That's what you do, to manage everybody's properties for them and turn them around from them. And you know a bit more than the normal letting agent knows, because I've taught you all the different things about, refurbing and what to do and how to do it. And that's how it makes it a lot easier now. But before, it was like, that's why I neglected it, for that reason. And I thought to myself, wait a minute, I'm no, for the return that I'm making with the diversion I've got and trying to do something else, I've kind of learned my lesson to just focus on the make sure the golden goose works.
Yeah.
And that's where it's going to be. It's not going to be anything else. There's nothing else going to save you. It's going to be what you core invest in. It's probably going to create all your riches to come. But for God's sake, didn't core invest it in crypto. Flipping it.
No, not crypto. But
some people will. Some people do.
Yeah.
Some people are convinced that it's going to be the way of the future. Yeah, but it'll not be your crypto. It's the way of the future. It'll just be someone else's. So yours will take a dive, like most crypto has, because there's other crypto that went belly up and they're no longer here, and yours takes a dive, and somebody else's, it's legit, like the government's crypto, then thrives.
Yeah, and a lot of people have this approach where it's like, oh, I want to be financially free, and that's fine, but do they actually understand what financially free means? And if you look at your income and it completely depends entirely on you and your time, then there's a problem there. That's not financially free, and it does explain why you've probably got a difficulty in growing and things as well, because it depends on you.
I think there's a lot to do, Richard, because we don't know what we really want. Again, that's what I spoke about yesterday. We don't know what we really want, and it takes us a lot of effort to go out of our comfort zone to actually realize what we do want. And I do think it's a lot to do with people are actually afraid
to let go,
to believe that they want something, because they don't think they'll achieve it. So it's like, I don't want to do it in case I fail.
Yeah.
It's the fear of failure. It probably drives people. Also, some people, it's the fear of success. Oh my God, what happens if I'm so successful, everybody has to rely on me? See?
Yeah.
See that? Because
it'd be a bit overwhelming.
Yeah, they've got a new challenge. They've got a new challenge. It's the fear of success. Is that if I'm successful at this, all these people I employ are all relying on me to keep going and doing it. So it's and it's based on your ability to perform. If it's all around you, that's why you have to get people and create people and help people become leaders within your network. And then when you help them become leaders, then they can take you can delegate that, and they can take some of that off you. So therefore, it's no longer based on your ability to perform. If you've got a two-man business, a partnership, but it still relies on you to be there to do that, you've not got a partnership. You've got a job.
Mm-hmm.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm sure you possibly left your safe employer's job.
Yeah, to do another job.
to just create your own job, which is not as safe, possibly.
Yeah, and to have people in place that you could then trust that they have the knowledge and the intelligence and the initiative to make decisions and things without your input. It takes time. I mean, you don't just do it overnight. I mean, people might think, oh God, I'll never be able to do that, but it will come eventually. It doesn't happen overnight. You need to find the right people and the right team and the people and get people trained and the right skills.
And that's where it comes back to saying this. This is what happens when you decide to start to turn income into goals from numbers.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the example you have got. Most people actually have income goals, but they actually remain quite vague. And I think it is the fear of success and the fear of failure that drives that. It could be a bit of both. So if you're wanting to earn, for example, £5,000 a month as a starting point, but that really doesn't mean and doesn't tell you what needs to actually happen, does it?
Yeah, that's just a figure. But you need to think about that and break it down a bit.
So if you look at the £5,000
mm-hmm.
and you break it down to £5,000, and say you had 100 customers, 50 quid out of each customer. If you decide you've only got 20 customers, then you're probably talking about, I think you're talking about 250 quid out of every customer.
So
and so on and so forth. If you just wanted one customer, then you'd have to get £5,000 out of them. And that's kind of just the basic fundamental structure of sales. That's how it works. Now,
I think it's initially having that plan about how you're actually going to get to there. Whether that plan goes exactly to the way you've, I mean, it might not always go exactly how you've planned it out, but at least you've got something to follow to actually get to that point.
Yeah, so you have to actually work out exactly what is it you want. And for a lot of people, it's they can't really decide what they want because I've never really thought about it. Yeah, but if just think about, well, just look at it materially then. Just look at the material thing, part of this wealth. If everything had no cost to it, what would you want?
Yeah, if there wasn't price tags, yeah.
Yeah, if there was no price tag on anything, what would you actually want? Now, funny enough, when I was actually asked that question, I said I wanted a Rover Tomcat. It was a 220 engine, so a 2.2 litre. It was the fastest production car in the world at that time that Rover had developed. And that's what I said almost, I think, maybe 40 years ago, 35, 40 years ago. I said when somebody posed that question to me, and they said, okay, so you never really thought about what I just said about if every car cost the same. Would you know wanted a Lamborghini or a Ferrari? And I said, oh, now you say that, probably. And then he posed a question to me, he says, well, why did you say a Rover Tomcat? And I says, well, that's all I thought I could really get. I never really thought about Ferrari or a Lamborghini because that's too expensive. He says, but I just told you that there's no cost to it.
There's no realms of affordability here.
And and what he said to me at that time, he says, do you know what's happened there? He says, you put a limiting belief on yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you mean? I've put a limiting belief on myself. He says, you've actually pegged yourself at the fact that you'll only probably be able to buy a Rover Tomcat in your life. You'll not be able to afford a Lamborghini or a Ferrari.
Lamborghini, that was never in the,
And at that time, I thought, you cheeky bugger. but he was truthful.
Yeah.
It made perfect sense. Now it makes perfect sense when I look back, but at that time I think, nah, I'm still not getting that a bit, but I understand the concept behind it. And then he explained to me about how do you train a flea? And I went, what the hell has that got to do with a car? And I went, how do you train a flea in a flea circus? Do you know how they do it? And I went, no, I have no idea. And I'm thinking, what's this got to do with a car? He says, well, what they do is they get the flea, the baby flea, they put it in a jar, and the flea jumps obviously all the time, but they put a glass lid on it. He says, what happens is they keep jumping, and they keep hitting their head, the flea, by hitting the. But what happens is the flea then learns. It's like, hey, I am only going to jump a fraction, like tiny micron before I hit that glass. I know exactly how high to jump now. Notice I just said I know exactly how high to jump now. Pre-programmed to only expect so much. And he says that's what's happened. The flea now only expects so much. He says, watch what happens when you take the lid off the jar. The flea doesn't jump out. It still thinks the glass lid's there, because it's not learned that the glass lid is not there anymore, because it's hurt itself so much. Now, isn't that so like life?
Yeah.
We get knocked down. People tell us we're no good. That's not for the likes of us.
Yeah.
What makes you think you're so special?
And
we've all heard it.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happens to us in life. It's almost beaten out of us mentally at the fact that we can't achieve that. I want to be an astronaut as a 5-year-old. It's like, you'll never be an astronaut, son. It's like, what does that do?
Be realistic.
But be realistic. Honestly, that's what sometimes happens. I think at some point in my in my education, a teacher once said to me, "Oh, be realistic, James. Be realistic." Oh, you don't think I was going to achieve what I said? I've got to be realistic.
Which
that was his expectations, not mine.
And it automatically has a knock-on effect on your own expectations of yourself. Yeah.
You go home and your parents used to say to you, your teacher knows best, respect your elders. They've got more, they know a lot more than you do. So you automatically think, oh, they're right then. And that's how people get pre-programmed to only jump so high. That is what happens. It's the same with a pike. If you put a pike in a tank of water and you don't put a bit of glass in, and there's another wee fish that gets in, the pike will go after the fish and eat it. But if you put this pane of glass in the middle between the pike and the fish, the pike will come round and go, oh, fish, bang. And then go round again and go, oh, fish, bang. And then go round again, oh, fish, bang. And eventually the pike goes, wait a minute, this is bloody sore.
Yeah.
It's like, I am not going to go for this fish anymore, because every time I go for this fish, I get hurt.
Yeah.
See how that happens? Every time I go for this fish, I'll be hurt. Guess what happens next? You take the glass out, the pane of glass out, and the pike never touches the fish again, even though the pane of glass is no longer there. Pre-programmed. That's what we are, by the government, by your peers, by your teachers, by the people around, your friends sometimes round about you. They're all telling you in some subconscious way what makes you think you're so special.
Yeah. And what's so interesting about that story there is you talk about how the influence of, parents and teachers and things in your early life make you have this expectation of yourself. And then when you get later in life and you find mentors, and like your mentor said to you, you've just put a ceiling on your own expectation of yourself. And you feel a bit offended about that, because that's naturally what you would feel like.
Yeah.
But it shows that the truth is they're obviously now telling you the truth. And once that sinks in, it's the realization, like, God, I've just held myself back there. And that's exactly what finding good mentors are about, because they'll tell you the truth and make you realize the things that hold you back.
This is the classic example about the stories that you hear from your parents about their parents, or even from your parents themselves when they're on their deathbed saying, I wish I had.
Yeah.
Don't you ever regret anything. You go for it. I wish I had done this. I wish I had done that. And it's because somebody had kicked that dream out of them. They'd stolen their dream. someone or a lot of people have stolen their dream, and they're allowed them to do that. That is what happens to us as we go. That's why you've got, I mean, we're all born more or less the same: 2 eyes, 1 nose, 1 mouth, 2 ears, a brain, and 2 hands, 2 legs, and all the rest of it. We're all born. It's like, so why do some people super succeed and some people don't? Why do some people who are down and out in their youth, you then see them later on, it's like, oh my God, you are so successful.
How did you do that? Yeah.
Where did that change? Most of the time they say they're actually associated with the right people. And they began to realize the value in continued learning. All the time, continued learning. That's where it happens.
9 times out of 10, you'll more than likely hear from a person like that I removed myself from a situation that was holding me back, or people. Yeah.
Look at athletes. They don't just get off their sofa one day and become an Olympic champion. They learn every single day by training.
And
that's
every day
what they learn.
Getting that little bit better every day, yeah.
The baby steps towards it every single time, learning and learning and learning. John Caldwell, John Caldwell of Phones for You?
Phones for You, yeah.
Yeah, John Caldwell. I mean, he was on LinkedIn and he was talking about he's going in for the ETAP, which is part of the race for the amateurs do for cycling on the route for the Tour de France in France. So apparently he went for it last year and he struggled. I mean, he's 73 or something like that. And I said to him, I said to him the other day in a post, I says, what's your VO2 max? Because he was talking about he's getting his VO2 max measured. And he said 42.8. And I went, oh my God, really? You're 73 and 42.8. That's almost elite category for somebody that age. I am 44 VO2 max. And I'm supposed to be almost an elite almost for that sort of category for my age at 59. So when you look at him, so he must be putting in some effort to do that. Now, I went back and says, you ever considered triathlon? Because you seem like you're a cross trainer, in terms of how he does things. So I'm still waiting on that reply, but it's interesting to see that. It's like, so why is John Caldwell, a 73-year-old, training for things like that? He wants to be around a lot longer, doesn't he?
Yeah, 73. Yeah. I mean, to be 73 and being involved at that level, I mean, hats off to him.
Yeah, so that's but he wasn't bothered about the fact that he says I'll more than likely fail again, but he says I'm no bothered. He says it keeps me focused on something I need to do. That's the whole point. That is what keeps you living longer, and yes, if you're going to make an income, surely you'd want to enjoy it more when you're later on in your life as well.
Yeah.
But if you're not healthy enough, you probably aren't going to enjoy it at all.
It's like the thing you hear about all the time. People retire and then they pass away so quick after it. And funnily enough, I was watching an American program the other day, and I've heard it before, but it just come into my mind. And it's police officers in America, and the average life expectancy after they retire is 7 years. I think it's 7 years. And I thought, God, how? Because they've had such a high-paced, career where they're involved, and then they retire, and it's just like, oh, and then they just give up. Basically, subconsciously.
That's why the show I talked about yesterday, as I said, find the meaning in the world of abundance. This is what I'm talking about. It's so important to find a meaning, and we are better off now than where. Oh, God knows. By some of the kings and queens from years ago, a person that's the poorest in the world today is probably better off than one of the kings and queens from 200-300 years ago.
Yeah, from a financial standpoint, and also like life expectancy and things as well compared to way back then.
Yeah, I don't think we realise how well we are. I recently saw someone the other day actually said about it'd be great to be back in the 80s, and I went, really? I'm not really sure if I liked the 80s, and I had a great time, and I love the feeling.
And the nostalgia and things of it.
I wouldn't go back to there because there'd be no mobile phones. There'd be, imagine being plonked in that environment now, back in that environment from here. you would be rattling. You were like, what do I do now? Because I'm used to, where's my phone? Oh, you've not got a phone anymore. Where's the internet? Where did I find out this? Where did I find out that?
If no one has
Who's got the
Wi-Fi,
answer for me? Where's Google? Where's AI to tell me that answer? That's catastrophic for someone mentally. That would be really stressful for someone in that environment. So I understand the concept of it. Oh, it'd be great to be back. But people actually genuinely wish they were back at the 1980s. And it's like, that is not a wish you really want to come true. You like the feeling, but you didn't like all the bad stuff. And you've forgotten all about that now, but it did happen.
Yeah, I think the nostalgia is a lot different. I mean, I was born in the 80s, but grew up in the 90s. I mean, I think of the 90s, but you know, like you say, to be plonked back without social media, mobile connection, internet, and all these things, that would be very, very different.
Definitely. So let's talk about this turning numbers into goals. We talked about the, you know, if you need $5,000 or £5,000, you've got 100 customers, then you're getting, I think it's 50 quid out each of them to get that. So 50 quid out each of them for 100. If you've got 50 customers, then you're obviously needing a bit more. You're needing £100 out each customer or whatever it is. So these are all the different avenues. You can work that all out for yourself, and that's how you can shift everything just numbers wise. Like, once you have you need to have a number though to start that working for you.
Yeah.
There's no,
have that end number you want to achieve and work back how you're going to.
It has to be. It's like playing a game of football with no goals. Otherwise, it's like you wouldn't know where to score. Where'd I kick the ball? There's no goals. That's exactly the same sort of thing. So once you understand the numbers, then you probably gain that flexibility that you've got.
Yeah, I mean, you've got that flex, and then that's when, do you know, I've put in a bit here as well about, do you know, adjusting your business model, and you have to be careful about that, obviously, depending on what your business model is. But if you've got something that's producing X amount of sales and X amount of income and things, and you might be happy at that level, but then in order to progress and you know, get to your next target, possibly, it's all about making incremental changes where you could get that income to then increase over time. And that's really like slight adjustments, because you've got a lot of people that have a model that works and leave it for a long time and then try and do a big jump rather than doing incremental changes over a longer period of time, like renting.
Why do you think Warren Buffett loves Coca-Cola and McDonald's? They're hugely volume orientated at a really low price point. So when you want to make more money right onto your bottom line, you put a couple of pennies on the can of a Coke. That's all you need to do. You're selling 1 million a day. You're selling 1 million a day. And you're just putting a couple of pennies on it. Over a year, that's an absolute fortune right to your bottom line. But the consumer doesn't realise that. They don't know that. It's the same way your subscriptions, when you're on things like, well, Rightmove, for example, they put them up. I mean, they put them at extortionate amounts each year, but they've got about 10,000, 15, 20,000 agents. I don't know how many they've got, maybe 50,000 actually. But their model is a hugely profitable model. Something like 70% net margin. Net margin.
Yeah.
That's where their model is, because they've positioned themselves as the top player, and everybody more or less tries to convince themselves that we need to be on Rightmove, and customers actually think we need to be on Rightmove. You don't really need to be, but for some small businesses that could be a huge amount in terms of their costs.
It could be a big portion of their outgoing.
But for Rightmove, it's like that's how they make money. They just put it up. For broadband, that's how they do it. For mobile phones, that's how they do it. Just small amounts, incremental every single time. Nobody really notices it. Nobody bats an eyelid because it's not that bothering about it. But in the real terms, from where it went to where it is now, it's probably way beyond inflation over a 10-year period. That's the difference. That's how you make more money with the same product. That's why they always talk about subscriber numbers for Netflix and for Amazon and for all these different things, and ChatGPT, or GPT, or something like that.
Everybody gets that wrong.
Oh, is it GPT? It says,
GPT, yeah.
I reckon when I got GTP, it's maybe capital gains tax or something like
I
that.
a lot of people say it when you're off the cuff going, it's just the
But
way it
that's
comes
how
out.
you do it. That's how you would do it. You could, and if you attract more customers, you could increase your volume, or you can create something that allows them to serve multiple people. You could add a new product line and sell it to the same people.
Yeah.
Now, Huel, you know, Huel, the drink and the powders and all the rest of it, has just been sold for 1 billion.
That's went up a lot. Since,
Yeah.
I mean, that was just a new product in the market 18
I
months
know.
ago, something like that.
Huel's been around for about 4 or 5 years, I think. 1 billion it's sold for. Almost like Ring.com with Jamie Siminoff. Huel just went meteoric, and Danone, you know, the yogurt
Danone.
maker. Yeah.
Danone.
Aye.
Well, yeah.
Aye. That's, I'd say it's Danone or whatever it is.
I always think the advert, that's good advertising, and it's Danone.
Yeah, that's it, Danone. So they've actually bought it because they feel that they've got the distribution channels to put this stratospheric. Whereas, and I wrote back to Huel because I'm a customer, and I said, well, that's the product going to go downhill now. Because I always know when a corporate takes over an organization like that, it's grown from the grassroots with the founders, that they always want to compromise. Look at Cadbury's chocolate. Look at Penguin biscuits. No longer a biscuit now, but it's something else. It's no longer a chocolate biscuit, apparently. It's something else. Because they couldn't call it that because the parent company wants to change the way it does things. It's like, and they always want to dabble and change things to maximize the profit they can get out of it, which compromises the amount of customers that are with them. And some will leave and some won't. But they hope that with the increase in profits they get, it will be outweighed. It'll outweigh the number of customers they might lose, and they might attract more people because they might be able to give free gifts and that to get people to subscribe. So see, that's another way of doing things. You know, adjusting your model. You can get free gifts to people to get them to subscribe. Look at Sainsbury's and Tesco's. They all fight on points.
Points now, yeah.
And the reason that they do that is because when they started, it was like, let's no fight on price. Let's keep our prices right so we can all make profit together, and we'll just fight on points. You know, you can get extra points. We'll give our points away, and that'll keep our shoppers loyal to us. And then along comes Aldi's and Lidl's and blows that model right out of the water, because they're like, no, we're just going to go to bargain basement discount and we've got to target you guys. And that's because there was a really good gap in the market for someone like that, and that's what happens in most businesses when stuff like that happens. So there'll be a rival somewhere that'll appear to Huel at some point in time. So that's probably why they've exited, because they realise it's more. Planthood as well. I looked at the profits for Planthood and it's like, oh my god, that much. They've only been going a certain amount of years, and it's like they're very highly profitable. And that's the ones that deliver all the meal kits. Like they're plant based because they're called Planthood. No shit, Sherlock.
Yeah. But yeah, no, you're right, because I've seen there's another one. It used to be HelloFresh, but the one that's taken over now, I think it's Zimmer or something. And
there's loads of them. There's loads of, but see other people come in, and it's like Beyond Meat as well. When they first started with the Beyond Meat burger, the meatless burger, the plant-based burger, then it was like, it was a high margin product. People were buying it at £5 for 2 of them, and then all of a sudden you get this comes onto the market. You get, you know, Plant Pioneers comes onto the market. You get Richardson, you know, sausages. They come onto the market with their alternative as well. So they've eaten into their margins now, and they're now competing with them. So therefore, Beyond Meat isn't doing that well anymore. And everybody thinks it's because people have been turned off with that. It's not. It's because there's more people coming to the market, because it is a highly profitable, lucrative business model. And so that's because that's why you want to. That's how you can adjust your model over the years. But you have to be very, very careful, and you have to kind of calculate the downside if margins do change. How open and sensitive your profits are to that. Because if you get a price reduction, oil's probably a classic example, and you're selling it at a certain amount, and all your costs are fixed, then you still have to sell it at that amount in order to cover all your fixed costs, because they're fixed, they're not variable, they don't disappear, they're still there. So therefore, if you take a hit at the top because you've had to have a price reduction, or you've lost a volume of customers to another rival, like Netflix to Prime or vice versa, or Apple TV, then you've lost subscribers. Therefore, that goes straight to the bottom line, because there's no cost in additionally adding on someone else or removing someone else. So the income comes straight off the bottom line instead of actually incremental, if that makes sense. It's not a marginal income anymore. It's a straight off the bottom line income.
Right off the bottom, yeah. Yeah, and as we talk about adjusting your model in these kinds of ways, it does demonstrate that your income isn't always completely fixed if you look at these kind of different changes, and you could shape it by your decisions, and your decisions could then obviously have an effect on the numbers that you could see coming through. So
yeah, definitely.
But yeah, to kind of round up what we're talking about today, it's kind of going for that stage of where you just kind of guessing things to actually building something, and bringing it all together. For me, I think the most important thing for anybody to take away from today is probably that your income isn't something that you wait for. It's something that you really need to look to construct and build.
Yeah,
I think that's a fair assessment of what we've been talking about today, and that comes from the value and the repeated consistency and doing it in a designed way that allows you to grow things over time. Do you know that compounding effect?
Well, you can rush in where angels rush in, fools rush in where angels fear to tread. And as a business, sometimes you can rush in, like, for example, James Watt and Brewdog. You could grow a huge organization within a meteoric rate within a short period of time in comparison to other models like that, brewery models. But then there's a lot of inherent costs that you incur as a result of that. And with Brewdog's example, they were all fixed.
Yeah.
So therefore they were struggling. So that's what I mean about margins and the way that pivoted, and all of a sudden they turned from a really profitable company to making losses, because craft beer then lost its sort of edge, and other entrants came in. Look at Innocent Gun, gone.
I know,
gone. And somebody else, one of the other breweries, has bought up the brand, but that's predominantly what happens. See, they just buy up that brand now. They don't buy up the rest of the stuff. They pick and choose what they want out of there, and then they make it a functioning, profitable business out of that. And I'm thinking, well, why did you not do that then? But they forget, they just lose sight. They get so engrossed in the blinkered approach about this is how we do it and this is how we've always done it, and we're not going to pivot from there, and we're not going to change our model, and lo and behold, they disappear because they're convinced. Timex, Kodak, all the same models and everything. That's what happens over the years. They just don't get it.
Yeah, definitely. And when we talk about wealth, I mean, wealth and income are two different things, but have a strong relationship. Wealth is kind of simply what happens when your income is sustained and worked on and expanded. That's when
it's income invested, really, isn't it? Wealth is created with income invested. That's ultimately how wealth is created, because wealth is assets. It's something tangible. Income is just something that comes in. It's used to generate wealth or living from day to day or week to week or month to month or whatever for your lifestyle and your living as well, I would say.
Yeah, and the advice as well, like I said, not to rely on guesswork, and a lot of people do start out at that really guesswork stage, but if you really get a grasp and an understanding of numbers, once you do understand them, you can start to then shape and build them into something.
Look at the coffee shop example. If you've got a coffee shop, work out all your overheads with the coffee shop, then work out how many cups of coffee you have to sell a day based on what your overheads are to cover them. And that's your break even. That's your break even point. In other words, everything covers your costs with the sale. So you know what you've got to sell every single day to break even every single day. So anything over that ends up being a bonus. But then you go into marginal costing because you've got to use coffee granules or filtered coffee. And then you've got to use, you've got your labour there anyway. You're not employing anybody else because the labour's probably still there and be able to do that. If you have to employ someone else, then you've got to add that additional cost on to make that. So that gets into the realms of marginal costing. In other words, what the incremental step that you take and the costs involved, where does it work out where you break even again? Or where does it work out where your contribution towards covering overheads? That's kind of your break-even point in terms of marginal costing. So that's essentially how you grow a business or grow anything. But as you said, you know, you have to have a clear way forward. You have to understand what it is you want to achieve. And that's why you end up sandwich shops and coffee shops, and most disappear after about 6 months or a year.
Because they've not got that end
no
goal in mind. Yeah. And like we were saying about do you know what, like we were talking about throughout the show, like what do you want your actual income to be? Think about that number. Be quite specific about it. Do you know, is it 3, 5, is it 10? Do you know, think it and then work out, right, how am I going to get there?
Yeah, that's the only way you can do it. Unless you know what you want to achieve, you'll never achieve it. I mean, how, by definition, how could you do that? How could you achieve what you don't know what you want to achieve? It's impossible.
Yeah, no.
By definition, you don't know what it is you want to achieve. So you're never going to achieve it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Once you know what you want to achieve, you could then build that clear path into achieving that. And yeah, how could you get there without knowing what that is? Yeah. Okay, right, we'll wrap it up today, but that was quite good. But yeah, the definitely the cash flow mechanics and turning these numbers into income is what we were covering today. So hopefully that's given a bit better perspective about where you need to be and how you're going to get there. You need to really have these things clear in your mind. And as always, learning for the right people. So, but thanks for that, Jim, and thanks to everybody that tuned in. We will, of course, be back next week as usual, and we'll leave it there today.
Bye for now.
Cheers.